So as we predicted yesterday, you know who could not stay away from the cameras. So he rescheduled his canceled press briefing to make some bold claims in the Rose Garden. Take a look.
We are continuing to rapidly expand our capacity and confident that we have enough testing to begin reopening and the reopening process. We want to get our country open, and the testing is not going to be a problem at all. In fact, it's going to be one of the great assets that we have.
1.6% of Americans have been tested right now. So is he really giving kind of people a false sense of security by saying we got all these tests and we're ready? What do you think, Meg?
I mean, I think it's probably all estimates I've heard from the professionals, doctors, people at the CDC is that we probably can't get any kind of vaccine for the next 12 to 18 months. So I do think it's probably a little far-fetched. My concern right now, I actually woke up and I emailed our executive producer about a picture I saw this morning of people boarding an American Airlines flight that's completely full and people aren't wearing masks and they aren't obviously social distancing because you can't socially distance on a plane. And I think the vast majority of the American public are abiding by the rules. They're doing a really good job, social distancing, abiding by everything that we're being asked to do. But it does seem that there are different standards and different rules for different things. So I can't see my family unless we're going to take a flight someplace. And then I could sit next to them, you know, a few inches apart. And I think there needs to be some more guidelines starting at the top, starting with the president, about exactly what we are expected to do. Because again, I found the pictures coming out of American Airlines very disturbing. And keep in mind, we're about to bail out the airlines for $50 million. And if they're possibly adding to the spread of this virus, I think they have a lot to answer for.
Well, I know that several of the airlines demanded that early on that their pilots and folks in the cabinet wear masks. But you know who also said that he hopes that states can. Passengers not wearing them, yeah. And one would think they would have, just in case you forgot them, you know, just in case you forgot it at home, you would think they'd have them on the plane. I mean, after all of this, but we'll see. Maybe they'll do it now. Maybe folks will remember to carry their masks and the airlines will have them there at the airports. But, you know, he also says that he hopes that states consider reopening schools before the end of the year. I don't know if I should ask this of Joy or if I should ask this of Sunny. Who wants to go first? You, Joy, or you, Sunny?
Age before beauty.
You,
I go first.
You go first. Oh, yeah. All right.
My dad used to say that all the time. Age before beauty. That's funny.
So I'll go first. Because you know, because I worked as a teacher and I have a child and I have a grandchild, so I do have some legitimacy in this conversation. And I also know that when one kid got sick in the class, the whole class got sick. Not only that, but they then took their little sicknesses home to grandma and grandpa and mommy and daddy and other siblings, etc. So kids can be very contagious and they show no symptoms. You know, I understand that people need to work and feed their families and put their kids back in school. But, you know, we have not stepped up in terms of testing in this country the way other countries have. We have 330 million people in the United States, and we have only tested 5.6 million people. Okay, Trump wants 2% per state, 2% per state per month. What about the other 98% who need to be tested? Testing, quarantining, and then dealing with it in the medical hospitals, etc. That's how it's supposed to work right now. Because as Megan points out, you know, we know this, we don't have a vaccine. All we can do is test people and open up the country. That's it. And they're not doing it. They're just not doing it.
Yeah. Well, Sonny, you've got kids at home. Is there any plausible version of you sending them back to school, like next week?
Well, not really, because I think the plan for reopening up schools has to mirror the plan for reopening up America. You have to have comprehensive testing, not only for the virus, but for antibodies. I think you have to have a plan on how to treat the disease if you get it. I think you have to have certainly vaccine development. And I think you have to have, at the very least, PPE for all of the healthcare workers who are on the front lines who are treating everyone. And so none of that seems to really be in place right now. And so I wouldn't feel comfortable, to Joy's point, with having my children go to school, come back home, infect me, get infected, infect me, infect my mom who lives with us. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think what is sickening is that you have on March 10th, the vice president telling reporters that more than 4 million tests would be available nationwide by the end of the week. And now the administration is celebrating that all together we've had 5 million tests, right, that have been conducted. So at the rate that we are going, 150,000 tests per day, it would take 6 years to test everyone. So why would I be comfortable with sending my kids to school in a week or 2 weeks? I mean, we're at the end of April now. Yeah. Again, this is sort of this piss poor response from the administration and all the misinformation coming from the administration. Vice President Pence, March 10th, all these tests, millions of tests. It hasn't happened.